Alright, today I'm testing out a new hide. I got a Hermann Oak 9 to 10 ounce piece of leather that I want to just test out some coloring and antiquing and stuff, but I thought, what better way to do that than to practice with a corner pattern here that I got from Don Gonzalez Saddlery. And this is just tracing it off the template that I have that I was able to get from him online. And, obviously this is sort of the first and important part, getting a good trace here. I do tape down both the tracing paper and the template, just so any sweat or moisture from your hands doesn't curl up the paper, so that when we actually get down to trace it here, that, we just don't run into any of those problems that you run into of having to trace over something or the actual template gets moved or what have you. It just ends up being something that is more helpful, I find, that just to use some painter's tape it down when you do all that. That way it stays pretty flat as you're holding it and just going over it. I'm just going over the stylus there, just tracing it, just trying to get a good trace, just so that when I move over here to the swivel knife, get it nice and sharp, and then start the swivel knife cuts, which obviously is really the foundation for all of the stamping and tooling that you do. So, one of the things that I wanted to do with this particular pattern, obviously the goal is just to sort of get something sort of cut and swivel there, so I'm not taking as much time as I probably normally would with a project, but I want to just get a design in there, get some pieces there, start beveling, start using crowners and undercuts just to start getting some depth to it, just to see how the leather will eventually take the oil that I use as well as the antique, and kind of go from there. So right now just starting to go through the beveling process of getting all the lines right, beveling the right areas at the right time, and kind of going through there in a pretty arduous process. I edited out the clicking and tapping that you would normally hear from the sped up process, but overall, this is part of it. This is a good template in that I messed up some of the lines when I was tracing, so it's not, some of the vine work and stuff isn't as thick as I'd like to be to keep it nice and clean. I like using a large size beveler just because it gives me some nice impressions and some depth to it, but I had to move around that a little bit to use the medium and the small beveler a little bit. But I try to make it nice and smooth as possible. But as you can see here, it's starting to take shape and starting to get some depth to it. Adding in some decorative swivel cuts and whatnot before I go in and start adding in some of the extra pieces. But for the most part, almost done. Had the pear shading on the leaves there that turned out nice, and on the flower, and just kind of squaring it off here. Just again, this isn't a project that's going to be a finished ordeal that's going to be sent to anyone, but as of right now, that's just, I want to make sure it's nice. So right now we're getting ready to do the oiling. I should have let it dry a little bit more, but obviously with the night getting away from me a little bit, I wanted just to go ahead and apply a coat of just vegetable oil. I just use plain vegetable oil there just to darken it up a little bit, see how it takes that. As it starts to dry out here, I'm going to be looking for the dark spots. You can see there sort of in the bottom left corner. I applied a second coat. Didn't want to show that for the sake of it's just the same sort of process. I did add some Pro Resist. I did not give it enough time to actually set in to protect it from this part here, the antiquing. So now that I'm adding in the antiquing, I'm going to get a little bit of staining during the rest of the other part. I probably should have just done the whole piece. Now that I think about it, I had plenty of antique. I could have done that, but you can kind of see here, again, because this is a test, I think this will be a good sort of metric once it all dries to look at and see how it all set in, how the leather took to the oil and the Pro Resist. And as I wipe it off here, just trying to understand, what's going to happen with this overall once it all dries, and kind of how I can use this leather for future projects. So it's got some good depth to it, some really good color. You can see some staining there in the sort of the diagonal, but overall it turned out pretty good. I'm excited to see how it dries, and from there, anyone that wants to watch any other videos, we're going to be producing several other videos, but overall this is going to be the channel, and how it's going to project by project vary, and I'm going to do some holsters and knife sheaths and different things, and we'll see how it goes. So make sure you like and subscribe to the video, and I'll catch you next time.